Hello everybody, it's your boy Proftrof, and this is a video that was suggested recently, so I decided to check it out. This is a atrocity guy, the man who lived in an airport for 18 years. Jesus Christ, brother. That's a lot of years.
1988 to 2006, employees and patrons.
Wait, what?
From 1988 to 2006,
Oh yeah, this is a video by... Wait, did I say that?
employees and patrons of the
Brain
Charles de
today's
Gaulle Airport in Paris grew accustomed to an
PTX.
unusual but increasingly familiar sight. Amid the stacks of luggage being wheeled across terminals, travelers spending layovers in restaurants and bars, and gift shops filled with overpriced souvenirs, a lone man hiding in plain sight lived on a red bench in the pre-departures lounge of France's largest international airport for nearly 2 decades. Sir Alfred's life inside the Charles de Gaulle Airport unfolded through a tragic series of misfortunes and self-sabotage. His name, like his backstory, was ever-evolving, giving those who attempted to liberate him an impossible task.
He has been pretending to be British since at least 5 years.
Disowned
Why
by
is he
both family
pretending
and
to be
country,
British?
all proof of identity either lost or stolen, denied entry into Paris through the airport exit, and unable to fly to a different destination.
Oh, that's why. What? They don't. What? So they don't allow him to leave the airport?
Sir Alfred was stuck in a perpetual limbo of both coming and going, a place he remained for 18 years. This is the story of Sir Alfred Moran of Terminal 1.
How did he eat? Airport food's expensive as hell. That was a little creepy, I'm be honest, cha. I hate airports, I hate them
Alfred
so
Moran
much.
arrived at the Charles de Gaulle Airport on August 26, 1988, he was a soft-spoken man in his early 40s, eager to catch a flight to the United Kingdom where he hoped to meet his biological mother for the first time. As he boarded the flight, along with several suitcases filled with his essential possessions, Alfred didn't expect he'd be returning to the pre-departures lounge of Charles de Gaulle mere hours later, or that it would be there he would watch the world transform around him, new technologies arriving and fading away, entire nations collapsing and reforming, experiencing it all through newspaper articles and fleeting fragments of overheard conversations. When he arrived at the Heathrow Airport in London, he failed to produce a passport or any other identifying information to the immigration representative. They'd been stolen, he claimed. Alfred was detained and then put back.
For him to board the plane, he needs to show passport, right? So it's
on a plane to Charles de Gaulle. He was initially arrested by airport authorities for attempted unlawful entry into the country. They ultimately determined his residence inside the airport violated no laws, but they were unable to permit him to enter Paris without proof of who he was or where he was from. And his plight would remain until Alfred himself was able to provide the necessary documentation.
well, how would he do that
Everybody
if it's
is
stolen?
not my problem. When that man will come with official documents, then we will accept him. So it's his problem to solve all that.
Yeah, but I mean, you could do that, but not from the fucking airport. Like, in order for you to get your passport back, you need to go to the away from. They don't have that on the. How do they
Alfred
expect him
decided,
to?
at least momentarily, to settle into Terminal 1, a bustling part of the pre-departures lounge which resembled a shopping center. There was a McDonald's, an electronics store, the entrance to a hotel, and hundreds of people, all too preoccupied with their own travel plans to notice him. Amidst it all, Alfred found a red-cushioned bench near a window which overlooked an outside fountain, a view which would become achingly familiar. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Alfred became a part of the Charles de Gaulle landscape. The chime of the intercom which accompanied flight announcements, he heard hundreds of times a day. At night, he curled up on his red bench, his blue jacket serving as a blanket. He'd wake up early before the airport became swarming with passengers to maintain basic hygiene in the terminal bathroom. He made friends with a few airport employees, such as...
Where does he shower? I don't think there's any showers over there, right?
those at McDonald's, which provided nearly all of his meals. Occasionally, people who knew of his situation would supply him with toiletries, clothes, meal tickets, and money. And he would deposit what he didn't immediately need into a savings account which he'd opened with the airport post office. He kept his mind from dwelling on the uncertainty of his situation by reading. Airport employees would regularly see Sir Alfred's unmistakable scalp poking above a rectangle of newspaper.
Hey, why are you throwing shade at my boy's bald ass head? Come on.
Its unmistakable scalp poking above a rectangle of newspaper, surrounded by plumes of pipe smoke.
That's fucked up.
To anyone who would listen, Alfred would explain that his home country of Iran had expelled him. His family had abandoned him. He was all alone, a stateless enigma the world simply wished to forget. By the following year, Alfred had saved up enough money to purchase another plane ticket to London. Despite having failed to solve his identification dilemma, Alfred decided once again to test his luck. And once again he was denied by Heathrow immigration and sent back to Paris, where he was detained, arrested, and eventually returned to Charles de Gaulle. Deportation was not an option, as there was no birth country on record to which he could be deported. Settling back into his red bench, Sir Alfred resigned to the fact that this would be his home for the indefinite future. It wasn't where he belonged, but it was the only place he was allowed.
And this is loneliness and not too happy. But I hope the result will be a happy end.
But who was Sir Alfred? And how far back did the roots of his misfortune stretch? And was he a victim of bureaucratic circumstance or his own mind? Born with the name Mehran Karimi Nassiri, Sir Alfred enjoyed an affluent upbringing in Iran. His father was a doctor who worked for the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, providing a comfortable life for his wife and 6 children. But all this was upturned, Mehran states, after his father's death in 1972. His mother revealed that she was not actually his mother, that Alfred was the product of an affair his father had had with a Scottish nurse. Mehran's illegitimacy was a secret the family had closely guarded, due to adultery being a capital offense in Iran during the 20th century.
A capital offense?
With no claims to his father's inheritance and his sense of identity shaken, Alfred, a college-educated man in his 20s, sought to leave Iran and the family who had betrayed him. For a couple years, he lived in Bradford, England. There, he enrolled in graduate courses in economics, becoming...
How did they betray him, though? They took care of you, brother. How is this a betrayal? Did I miss something? I found someone who was that he was illegitimate. But when he was 23, his father died of cancer. Agrees, man, she was not his real mother. Okay. How did they betray him? What?
To leave Iran and the family who had betrayed him. For a couple years, he lived in Bradford, England. There, he enrolled in graduate courses in economics, becoming involved in political demonstrations, while receiving a stipend from the woman he'd previously known as his mother. But after 2 years, the money stopped coming in, leaving Mehran with no choice but to return home. When he arrived in Iran, Mehran alleges he was arrested and imprisoned by the Savak secret police, who interrogated, tortured, and expelled him from the country, based on evidence that he had participated in protest against the Iranian Shah. Mehran was given refugee status by the United Nations Committee on Human Rights and granted travel documents which would allow him to pass freely between countries which had signed the Geneva Convention. Mehran lived a restless, nomadic life around Europe for several years before eventually setting his sights on Scotland. It was there he hoped to find his biological mother, the only family he believed he had. His first attempt to enter the United Kingdom from Paris was by boat, and it's during this time at a nearby train station Mehran claims his briefcase containing essential documents such as his passport and refugee papers was stolen.
Damn.
After being arrested for attempted unlawful entry, a recurring theme in Mehran's story, he decided to try again, this time by plane via the Charles de Gaulle airport, and it was here his journey came to a halt.
And this is the life for about 8 years.
Jesus.
9 years.
By the early 90s, Maran attracted the attention of local press, and the man who lived in the Charles de Gaulle airport, as journalists would dub him, began to regularly receive letters, postcards, and care packages from supporters. With no address, his mail would be forwarded to Dr. Philippe Bargain, the airport physician whose attention to Maran's situation placed him into a de facto intermediary role.
His physical health is fine. His psychological state of mind is less good.
Please let
Well,
Mr.
I mean,
Nassiri know.
if I had to live for 8 years in a fucking airport, I'd probably be a little less good psychologically as well, doctor.
That many people are concerned for his well-being and that we feel bad about his plight, read one of the many letters he received, often with cash included. Dr. Philippe Bargain was joined by human rights lawyer Christian Bourget, who would keep Maran from facing further arrest due to his misfortune.
When he was arrested in '89 for the third time in France, he asked me to defend him.
Bourget would even attempt to recover his stolen
Wait,
documents.
I don't understand. Why cannot they just give him like the refugee passport again? Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
But unbeknownst to Bargain and Bourget, Maran was undergoing a personal transformation. Based on a letter he received which mistakenly addressed him as Sir Alfred, Maran had begun a reinvention of himself. Where Maran Karimi Nassiri had been shunned and rejected, Sir Alfred was a local celebrity whose newspaper articles...
Oh, he did not wanna... Okay. He liked the attention, so he was like, oh, this ain't that bad. I have attention, people are sending me happy letters and stuff. That's kind of sad, but at the same time, come on, brother. I'd probably go insane if I had to fucking stay on an airport for more than a week, probably. Like, when I was traveling to the US, I was going through Turkey 2 times. I went through Turkey, so, and I had to wait like 8 hours for my flights there. 8 hours. I hated every single minute on those fucking... It's cramped. There's a shit ton of people. There's noise all the time. I hate it. I hated it.
and letters from supporters sat in large, ever-growing stacks near his red bench. He began introducing himself as Sir Alfred.
At the beginning, I can just introduce as Alfred Maran or Sir Alfred Maran.
A harmless change if left on its own, but Maran's transformation wouldn't end there. And as Dr. Bargain and Christian Bourget would soon learn, it was a transformation thorough enough to render their efforts useless and increase Sir Alfred's stay in Charles de Gaulle by nearly 10 years.
He started signing himself as Sir Alfred on documents and shit. People didn't like that. I still don't understand why they just didn't give him another passport, like travel passport, so he could fuck off.
By the mid-90s, people across Europe had begun to take notice of the quiet man who had made a life for himself inside Charles de Gaulle. His situation was novel, tragic, and for writers, artists, and filmmakers looking for inspiration, a potential subject. A 1998 opera titled Flight tells the story of a character named the refugee who is stuck at an airport, unable to enter the country or fly elsewhere due to his missing passport. A French independent comedy titled Lost in Transit, with the protagonist who misplaces his passport becoming stranded in a Paris airport, debuted in 1993 to lukewarm reviews. But Sir Alfred's situation wasn't limited to fictionalizations. In 1999, a husband and wife team of documentarians went to Paris in order to interview Maran for a short documentary titled Sir Alfred of Charles de Gaulle Airport. The documentary showcased
I like how they put his bald head there. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Alfred of Charles de Gaulle
Didn't even
Airport.
put his face, just the bald head. That's recognizable enough.
The documentary showcases a quiet, introverted Maran reading and incessantly writing in his journal, while completely at ease in front of the camera. And through the film's interviews, the extent of Maran Karimi Nassiri's transformation into the British-born Sir Alfred is revealed. A reinvention so absolute that he refused to speak his native language of Persian, scolding those who addressed him in anything other than English.
Well,
I said, true, I am not Iranian, and I said I don't speak Persian, it's true.
The denial of his Iranian heritage extended to nearly every aspect of his life.
Do you have an Iranian accent?
No.
When asked what documentation he had to prove he was born in Europe, he became evasive, stating it's just information.
What information?
It's just information.
Where did you get that information?
In my paper.
The papers that you write?
Yes.
When asked how he qualified for the title Sir, a knighthood bestowed upon British citizens of high regard, he replied,
By virtue.
but perhaps the most startling demonstration of commitment to his new persona came in July of 1999, after Christian Bourget, who at this point had been handling Alfred's case for nearly a decade, had finally located his missing papers. Despite claims of them being
Wait, what? Whoa, what?
had finally Bourget to his new persona came in July of 1999, after Christian Bourget, who at this point had been handling Alfred's case for nearly a decade, had finally located his missing papers. Despite claims of them being stolen, the lawyer discovered that Sir Alfred had mailed them to Belgium authorities while en route to London during his first attempt to enter the country. Sir
I cannot. Okay, I'm back. Last pause, I promise.
Alfred's reasoning for this is unclear. When questioned about it, he dismissed it as a moment of folly. We had a little celebration.
So he fucking mailed.
Sir Alfred's authorities.
Why? I don't understand. You are traveling from country to country. Why are you mailing your documents, you crazy maniac?
While en route to London during his first attempt to enter the country.
This goes to show you, brother. Just because you have a college degree, university degree, doesn't mean shit.
Sir Alfred's reasoning for this is unclear. When questioned about it, he dismissed it as a moment of folly. We had a little celebration, airport doctor Philippe Bargain told the Irish Times. But Alfred wasn't happy. He thought the papers were fake. Alfred's insistence that the papers didn't belong to him.
Wait a second. So if he did that, he kept saying he was mugged from the first time. Why? If he told that to the doctor and the other dude, they would have probably helped him immediately, like the first week or month in the airport, and they would have gotten his documents back. Since they were mailed over there, they probably have them somewhere, right? Stashed up. And he said he doesn't like being in the. Okay.
Based on two
I need explanations.
Complaints. His name was listed as Mehran Karimi Nasiri, not Sir Alfred. His birthplace was listed as Iran. Alfred wanted it noted that he was born in Britain. He would also accept Sweden or the United States.
He told me that.
Wait, motherfucker, what do you mean he would also accept Sweden and the. Those are not even close to each other, you fuck. God
even
damn it.
Born in Iran. I was born in Sweden. How can you say that?
With the only evidence
I feel you, brother.
these
Can you imagine fuck this dude. Can you imagine this dude? This dude has been trying to help him for like at 99, what is that, like 8-9 years at this point? And then you suddenly get his document and the dude goes, oh no, me no Iran, me Swedish, me English, me British. Like what?
Born in Iran. I was born in Sweden.
I understand why he's pissed.
How can you say that?
I would be
With
pissed
the
too, to
only
be honest.
evidence to support these biographical changes being anecdotal from Sir Alfred himself, he was asking the impossible, and it's likely he knew it. Bargain and Bourget were beside themselves with frustration. They've been working on Sir Alfred's case pro bono for years, and having solved his problems,
Like,
Sir Alfred needed
The thing that would have pissed me off the most is that if he told them he was not mugged and told them where the documents are, they could have found them the first day probably. Okay, maybe not the way. Maybe take a week for them to go, to have the people working, the mail people find his actual documents. But like years of searching, trying to find shit, and this dude was like, oh, me British, me Swedish. The
to find the
fuck?
papers in order to resume the life he'd put on hold 11 years earlier. But as far as Sir Alfred was concerned, he was an entirely different person from the man who'd entered Charles de Gaulle in 1988.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. That's the thing though. When he entered, he knew he wasn't mugged. He knew where his documents were. He didn't tell anyone. So like, did he plan this whole thing? No way he could have planned this whole thing, right? That he would. I mean, I don't know.
Theory might be free to go, he stated, but Sir Alfred is not. But what about his search for his biological mother? He's talked about her for so many years, Bourget told the Sunday Times. I thought at last he'd be able to go to Scotland and search for her properly. And after 11 years inside Charles de Gaulle, killing time on his red bench, eating fast food fish sandwiches every day for lunch, didn't he want to go home?
Yeah.
Sir Alfred's response
I like
was
those
startling.
sandwiches, but
I'm already home, he said.
nah, brother, nah.
By the early 2000s, Sir Alfred had become something of a minor celebrity, and independent filmmakers and journalists were no longer the only ones interested in his story. The man who had been living in Charles de Gaulle for 15 years had caught the attention of Steven Spielberg. DreamWorks acquired the rights to his life story for a film titled The Terminal. Tom Hanks would play a character loosely based on Sir Alfred,
Now I go New York City. Thank you.
a stateless refugee stuck in an airport eating
That
fast
accent does not go with his look. What the fuck?
story for a
Is it
film
just me?
titled The
Please tell me
Terminal.
out.
Tom Hanks would play a character loosely based on Sir Alfred,
Sound like
Now I
Borat.
go New York City. Thank you.
a stateless refugee stuck in an airport eating fast food, bathing in the public restroom sink, sleeping on a bench, caught in a bureaucratic glitch that held him hostage inside an international transit lounge.
I am delayed long time.
But the complexities of Sir Alfred's situation were much more paradoxical. The bizarre nuances of Moran's identity crisis, the fact that he could, in actuality, leave whenever he wanted, didn't make it into the Hollywood rendition, which was flattened into a romantic comedy that occasionally bordered on slapstick. When the film was released in mid-2004, a popular photo opportunity was Sir Alfred posing next to the poster advertised in his home of 16 years. Some photographers even managed to capture the absurdity that he would likely never have the opportunity to see the movie. Publicity surrounding
No absurdity, no. They don't catch shit. He can leave, he can go see the fucking movie. Anytime he wants. Just stop being a psychopath. Just stop. He can. He got his passport, he can leave whatever he wants. What do you mean?
Films released
Probably
was
got
at an all-time
decent amount of
high,
cash from the
as
fucking
people
movie as
wanted
well.
to meet the man who'd inspired the film.
He can start a
Did you
life
know that
whenever
a
he
man
wants.
has been living at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris for more than 16 years. He has no possessions, no home, no ticket,
Okay,
and no
buddy.
money. And now Hollywood
Okay, you little shit. But okay, I hate when people do this. They're like, they try to romanticize everything. They try to make everything into no. He has possessions. He has clothes. He probably has more money than some of us with that movie, with all the things people have been saying. He has that. He even has his fucking passport. He can leave. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't. Attention. People get so hyped up on this attention. I don't understand it.
his story as inspiration for a new film.
Alfred's story to the media was the same as it had been since the beginning. He was expelled from Iran, his papers containing his true identity.
Was he actually okay? Was he actually expelled from Iran at this point? Like, he lied about so many stuff. Okay, he didn't lie about. He did lie about a lot of things. At this point, do we even know what's fact and what's fiction with this fucking dude? Was he actually expelled from Iran? Did his father actually cheat on his mother? Is he? Does he have a mother from Scotland? Actually, do we?
Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle for their return.
What do we know if
He says that
anything of
he's
this
still,
is
16
truth?
years on, holding out for the return of his papers.
But the people most familiar with his situation knew the truth. The only person keeping him inside Charles de Gaulle was himself. The peculiarities of his situation deepened when it was revealed that DreamWorks had paid Sir Alfred a large sum to acquire
Of course
the
they
rights to his
have.
story.
They've gotten the rights to his life story. And he's not a nobody. People actually know him. Of course they paid him a lot of money. What do y'all mean? Why did we state this like it's a surprise? It's like, oh, what? They based a whole fucking Hollywood ass movie with a good director or whatever, a famous actor, on this dude's life story, and he got paid? Who would have thought? Come on. Come on.
The exact figure differs among sources, but appears to be
250K,
somewhere
Sony.
between $175,000 to $500,000. Sir Alfred simply deposited the money into his airport post office savings account, where it remained out of sight and out of mind. While the terminal bore only a situational resemblance to Miran Karimi Nasiri, those who wished to experience Sir Alfred's story firsthand would only have to wait a few months. In September of that year, Alfred published his autobiography, which he had spent years writing on his red bench, aptly titled Terminal Man. The book was co-authored by graphic novelist Andrew Donkin, published by a British division of Penguin Random House, and would
Published by a... Was that one of the things you wanted? I want this book to be published by a British thing.
be printed in multiple languages and editions.
No Iranian though, right?
Reader reviews were mixed, with reactions
Persian,
ranging from fascination and pity to outrage, both at Sir
Okay,
Alfred
let me
for his
see. I
stubborn
want to see this dude. This dude's not. Let me sum up my feelings about the man in the terminal for all you general douchiness. You can just rot for all. Wow, damn, brother. Since you wrote this problem, not the emotion you were going for, it takes a combination of nasty bureaucracy, rank stupidity, pig-headedness, and indifference of others to get stuck in the terminal for that long. Well played, your dick majesty. Well played. Well, to be honest, from what we're getting, it's not even a problem with the bureaucracy, right? Because he had his documents, he just didn't want to tell people about them. And I don't know. I'm not okay. I don't know. Maybe if he was actually mugged, what would okay? Let's take this situation from a person. If they were actually in the same situation, but they were actually mugged, is there nothing for them to do? Can they do nothing? Can they not travel anywhere in the world where they could, start setting up their things? Because the reason this dude didn't get documents, because at some point he started refusing that he's who he is, right? I don't know. I'm very confused about the story at this
for the
point.
bureaucratic
I am
potholes which
insanely
allowed his
confused.
statelessness in the first place. It was clear readers wanted
He's
to
kind of
empathize
selfish.
with
No,
Sir
he's not
Alfred,
kind of
but their
selfish.
empathy was cut
Well,
with frustration at his
I don't know if
inaction.
selfish is the word.
Moran would hold author signings from his red bench at Charles de Gaulle, since people who wanted an autograph knew exactly where to find him. Terminal Man has been out of print for some time, with only a few used copies circulating online, often priced to reflect its rarity, making it something of a collector's item. By the mid-2000s, Sir Alfred had enough money to begin a new life, and with the paperwork that he needed only to claim as his own within constant reach, his problems were now internal rather than external. Desperate attempts to persuade him to leave to resume his life only resulted in exasperation. As Dr. Bargain told the Baltimore Sun, he'd offered to take Sir Alfred on vacation with his family to Brittany, France, but he refused. Many began to wonder, was his newfound international celebrity so beguiling that he was willing to remain on his red bench indefinitely for fear of
The thing that people seem to be ignoring with this story is that he was not mugged. He knew where his documents were the entire time. The first day he got stuck on that airport, he knew there was a way for him to resolve the whole issue. I don't understand why he kept going through the first struggle. Like, he wasn't famous then. He planned this whole thing. Did he not just care? He was like, fuck it, I like this airport. I want to settle here. Bam. Fuck, someone mugged me. I don't know where they at. Yeah.
If his recovered paperwork and several $100,000 couldn't nudge Alfred through the airport exit and into the world, what could? And was his insistence that he was still a hapless prisoner of the airport despite overwhelming contradictory evidence integral to the Sir Alfred persona he'd created for himself? The general assumption was that the trauma Moran had experienced throughout his adulthood had caused him to retreat into a fantasy reality, one in which he was now reluctant to escape. But that very same year, in September of 2004, a filmmaker would publish an investigative piece for The Guardian, which would call into question the few remaining details of Sir Alfred's backstory that had yet to be disproven.
What's happening now?
Alfred, would you want to leave the airport or not?
My destination is not clear yet.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to leave the airport without you knowing what you're going to do. I can help you. I can. These people at this place in Paris, they said that they can handle it. They're experts in this. You could go there. You could sleep there.
I finish. You didn't finish it?
2004 would be one of the most noteworthy years for Sir Alfred. With the release of The Terminal and subsequent publication of his autobiography, more and more people began turning their attention to the man who'd lived inside Charles de Gaulle for 16 years. This proved both good and bad for Sir Alfred. He clearly enjoyed the spotlight, but as more attention came to his situation, the less control he had over the narrative. The cracks in his story had been showing for years, but it wasn't
true. Plus, not all the attention is gonna be good. That's what people don't seem to understand. There is no pure good attention, you know. Everything comes with good and bad. It's just how it is. That's how human is. Even if it's the best person in the world, a literal saint, there's gonna be cunts that are gonna, you know, try and fuck with you. That's how it works.
Until filmmaker Paul Berkseller's investigative profile of Sir Alfred, titled "The Man Who Lost His Past," did these cracks widen to swallow Alfred's story whole. Sir Alfred had been a longtime subject of Berkseller, who earlier in the decade had spent nearly a year at Charles de Gaulle in order to film what he referred to as a low-budget art house feature, titled Here to Where, detailing the life of Sir Alfred in what IMDb is labeled a mock documentary. Berkseller had hoped that the conclusion of his film would be to convince Sir Alfred to finally leave Charles de Gaulle, with the final cinematic shot being the two of them leaving together through the airport exit. But just as those who had tried before and since, Berkseller found Sir Alfred immovable.
Alfred, I would love to see you. I'd love to see you on the stage, everyone applauding. You know, because you'd left the airport and we'd made this movie together.
Yeah, more successful.
Imagine how great it would be. It'd be amazing, Alfred.
Overshadowed by other films dedicated to Sir Alfred debuting around the same time, very few people have seen Here to Where, but Berkseller's investigative contribution to the story of Sir Alfred is arguably the most illuminating. With the publication of The Man Who Lost His Past, Berkseller had done what none had done before him. He'd made contact with Moran's family back in Iran, and he asked them the questions many had been wondering for years. If Sir Alfred had come from such a large family, why hadn't any of his 5 siblings attempted to help him?
They have, haven't
His
they?
location, after all, was no mystery. It turns out they had. On multiple occasions throughout the early 90s, family and friends visited Sir Alfred at Charles de Gaulle. But instead of their brother Moran Karimi Nassiri, they found the British-born Sir Alfred, who simply refused to acknowledge them. He pretended they were complete strangers. The second revelation came when Berkseller had asked after Alfred's expulsion from Iran, his arrest and torture at the hands of Iran's Savak domestic security force for his protest against Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. As Berkseller writes, Alfred participated in a student strike at Tehran University in 1970 to object to a new university regulation. Things started to get out of hand and Savak got involved. They questioned all the students and gathered up the ringleaders, about 20, including Alfred. After a few hours of questioning in a university classroom, the matter was apparently dropped. This was evidently Alfred's only serious problem with the security services. There was no arrest, no torture, no confiscations of his passport, and no deportation, Berkseller continued.
So he made a whole identity for himself. I find this very, I don't know what word to use to express my unhappiness with this. I don't what's the point of living your whole life in lie? I don't understand I cannot put myself in his position. I cannot do that because I cannot comprehend any of his moves. There is no logic between any of what he's doing. He's like an animal to me. I don't understand him. Why are you doing these things?
It was not nearly as dramatic of a story as Alfred remembered. But perhaps the most startling of all was the debunking of Sir Alfred's reason for leaving Iran in the first place.
I knew it.
The illegitimacy of his birth. Berkseller couldn't contact Sir Alfred's Iranian mother, the woman who'd reportedly shunned him and sent him on his European journey in search of his birth mother, because she'd passed away years earlier. But according to Sir Alfred's siblings, she was heartbroken at the accusations. Moran, after all, was her biological son, and she'd never told him otherwise. Many had long speculated this aspect son, and she never...
And according to Cyrus and Mina, she couldn't understand why he insisted on saying that she was not his mother. It was the great sadness of her life. He came from me, she told the other children. Why does he say that? Can you imagine? as a mother, like your son just being like, hey, you're not my mother. I have a new mother. Your husband cheated on you. Clara is planning to fly to Paris next month to see his long-lost brother. Perhaps Alfred's long journey will still have another unlikely
told
twist.
Him otherwise. Many had long speculated this aspect of Sir Alfred's story was fabricated, regardless of how fundamental to his
everything
residence
is
at Charles de
fabricated.
Gaulle it was.
Absolutely
the glaring
everything.
counter-evidence, his distinctly Middle Eastern appearance, couldn't be hidden.
Il me disait qu'il était résultat des amours illégitimes entre son père médecin et une infirmière anglaise. Il a quand même pas une tête d'anglais. Il fait adhérer tout le monde à son délire.
With the foundations of Alfred's origin story disproven, the question arose, what exactly was he doing there in the first place, and why wouldn't he leave? As Philippe Bargain told the Sunday Times, he is completely lucid and functional, but he is pathological. To be honest, he'll probably die here.
Wait, is this in Russia? No prošte zabranjovat. Yeah, it is Russian, I think. They use the us at the end. That we don't use in Bulgarian like that.
By 2006, Sir Alfred had lived in Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle for 18 years, nearly a third of his life. He'd watched ever-changing fashion trends, significant scientific leaps forward, and the ushering in of a new millennium, all from his red bench scattered with newspapers and cigarette butts. Many wondered, if Moran still fostered plans of one day leaving, would he be mentally equipped to re-enter a transformed society of which he had only vicarious exposure?
Was he ever, though?
As Dr. Bargain told the New York Times, he believed Alfred would need to be weaned from the airport, like an addict. The young man who'd first arrived in 1988 had grown gaunt, sallow, and gray. As a semi-permanent fixture of the Charles de Gaulle pre-departure's interior, he reportedly hadn't stepped outside since 1999, where he witnessed a total solar eclipse. As many had long speculated, Sir Alfred would never leave the airport of his own volition. Terminal 1 became a place where he could write his own history, become someone else entirely. Leaving would be an admission that he was, and had always been, Mehran Karimi Nassiri from Iran, an identity he no longer wished to carry.
Why won't you speak to me in Persian?
No
what are you afraid of?
I am not afraid of anything here.
I want to help you.
I'm sorry.
But in July of 2006, Sir Alfred was taken from Charles de Gaulle by ambulance. A health emergency beyond the resources of the airport medical center required his relocation to a nearby hospital. The exact details of Sir Alfred's condition weren't reported, and therefore left to speculation. Unlike his mental health, the airport doctor had reported over the years that his physical health was normal, despite a diet consisting almost exclusively of McDonald's.
Jeez,
but
for
a clue
18
can
years.
be found in a book review of The Terminal Man, where a traveler passing through Charles de Gaulle in 2005 spoke with Sir Alfred after purchasing a copy of his book. Sir Alfred had disclosed that he had a brain tumor and was grateful for the sale because he would need it for his medical bills. Several photos and videos also feature a growth on the top of his head that appeared to grow larger over the years. One can't know for sure the reason for his medical emergency, but once Sir Alfred had been relocated for treatment, his stint inside Charles de Gaulle had finally come to an end. Sir Alfred remained in the hospital for several months, eventually being transferred to a local shelter provided by Paris's Emmaus Solidarity movement in early 2007. His red bench hovel near the window overlooking the fountain was disassembled, the traces of an individual living there for nearly 2 decades erased. The peculiar story of Sir Alfred's life inside Terminal 1, while arguably the most high-profile case, is not the only one of its kind. Across the world, many others have experienced their own lengthy layovers, with several cases still ongoing. But unlike Moran, most are doing so involuntarily. The list of such instances is long, including high-profile figures such as American whistleblower Edward Snowden, who spent over a month inside an international airport in Moscow, awaiting asylum after fleeing the United States.
Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning also told reporters in Finland that Snowden remains in a transit zone at the international airport in Moscow.
A refugee named Hassan al-Kantar was stuck in a Malaysian airport for 7 months after being exiled from Syria following his refusal to join the military. Due to an expired visa, Kantar was stranded in Kuala Lumpur International from March to October of 2018 before being granted asylum in Canada. Kantar made the most of his situation by posting daily pictures and videos on Twitter to his audience of supporters.
Good morning, everyone, from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Always and forever.
Syrian stuck at airport.
It's almost 4:30 a.m. now.
Airport is my home.
I'm trying to sleep.
The Terminal movie too. Okay, how much do we know? That's the thing, though. That's the thing. After you make it, very famous with the first movie, how do we know this person just didn't do this shit to try and garner the same attention the first dude did? We don't know this anymore.
It's okay. Some nights are harder than others.
The Hassan family, including 4 small children, were stranded for 50 days inside a Moscow airport due to allegations of forged visas. A handwritten sign that stated, "Please don't touch our things because we are living here," was placed at the borders of their makeshift home. Seeking asylum is among the most common reasons individuals have found themselves trapped, rejected from entering their country of refuge, unable to return home, and with no other options than to remain where they are.
Sucks for the kids,
A few instances of people living in airports voluntarily have occurred. Denise D'Souza, who reportedly ran away from home as a teenager due to arguments with his stepmother, has remained in GRU International in Brazil for the last 20 years. Those who visit Terminal 2 of the Sao Paulo airport will likely see him on his blue bench, McDonald's coffee cup in hand. After being given an ultimatum by his wife and in-laws to either quit smoking and drinking or move out of the house,
Brother, no. Don't. Brother.
For the last 20 years. Those who visit Terminal 2 of the Sao Paulo airport will likely see him on his blue bench, McDonald's coffee cup in hand. After being...
You better not. If this is a stay for over 30 days, I will be pissed.
Given an ultimatum by his wife and in-laws to either quit smoking and drinking or move out of the house, Wei Zhonghua has lived inside Terminal 2 of Beijing International Airport for the last 10 years. "It's a public place," he said of his new home. "Anyone can come." Sir Alfred's motivation for living in Charles de Gaulle is less clear. Dr. Bargain theorized to the Irish Times that Moran may have originally fled his home country to avoid conscription in the Iran-Iraq War. But his decision to remain, to continuously move the goalpost for leaving, acting as both captive and captor, is perplexing. As Sir Alfred may have feared, once he was no longer the man inside the airport, the media lost interest. News coverage regarding his current whereabouts is scant. Occasional rumors suggest him to be alive and currently living in Paris, although confirmation from credible sources appears non-existent. But whatever came of Moran Karibi Nassiri, he fought long to win the name Sir Alfred. The identity of a man who could adapt to the white noise of hundreds of people constantly surrounding him, who would sit at his red bench and watch passengers journey back to their homes, letting go of his desire to do the same. We can only wonder if he took that identity.
Don't make him sound like a fucking hero. He didn't have the desire. He had the things. He just did not want to do the things. I don't know.
Them as he entered the city he'd watched from behind his window for 18 years.
Or a city he could have gone to any time.
Left Sir Alfred behind in Charles de Gaulle where he belonged.
He did pretend also that he was American. He did pretend that he was Canadian.
Everything. Swedish.
Passengers for flight GA642 to Rome, please go to gate 26.
Like, the thing I don't understand the most is so what was his motivation for staying at the airport in the beginning? Like, he was traveling to England. He got refused because he didn't have the passport. He lost him, right? He said he was mugged. Why did he say that? Why did he say he was mugged instead of saying, "Oh, I sent them over there. can we have them come back to me so that I can fuck off? Why did that never happen? That's what's the most confusing of me. Why did he decide to start living on it? Because I can kind of understand why he stayed there. He got too attached to the popularity, money maybe, I don't know. He didn't have use for the money, so just popularity is the most obvious one. But before that, he was not popular. And then he had the plan to become popular to just staying at the airport. That's the most confusing thing for me. Anyway, I'm curious. I'm curious what you guys are gonna say about this. I would love to read your comments. Let me know what y'all think on this. And what the fuck's up with the dude that his wife threw him out for having, for smoking and drinking or whatever, and he living on a fucking airport? What the? I don't know. I cannot. I want to stop thinking about this. Anyway, quick thank you to the Patreons and the YouTube members: Pedro Matias, Command Scorinette, So Asterix, Senior Hill, Lemon, Monarch, Madash, Ronic, Another James Bizon, True Hideki 25, Marco Museo, Nicole Gergiev, Charlie Leroy, Olivia, and Sanger. Thank you all for the support. I'll catch y'all next time. See ya.